Yesterday, we were laughing over stupid memes. This morning, I woke up to find myself erased from his life, blocked on every app, every platform like I never existed. No fight, no warning, no goodbye, just gone. It had been one of those easy, unremarkable evenings, the kind you don't think will matter until later when you're replaying it in your head, looking for some hidden sign you missed. We'd talked like we always did. Nothing dramatic. No tension humming under the words. Just the usual rhythm. A couple of jokes, a shared meme, a little back and forth about what we'd do that weekend. They even threw in one of those small, casual compliments that don't feel like much at the time, but stick with you later. "Hey, you always make me laugh," or "I'm glad we talk every day." When I went to sleep that night, I didn't think I was closing a chapter. I thought I was just logging off until morning. I set my phone on the nightstand, still feeling the quiet comfort of knowing someone I cared about was just a message away. Then morning came. I rolled over, still half asleep, and opened my phone out of habit. I sent a good morning text, something light and familiar, and waited for the little typing bubble. Instead, I saw nothing. No message sent, just a red exclamation mark. My thumb hovered, I checked their profile. Gone. Checked another app. Same thing, Instagram user not found. Snapchat grayed out, name. WhatsApp single tick, no profile picture. It wasn't just one platform, it was all of them. Everywhere I could possibly reach them, I was shut out like I'd never existed. No warning, no fight, no slow fade. Just one night they were here, and the next morning they'd vanished, or worse, erased me. I just sat there staring at my phone, mind spinning through every possible reason. Did I say something wrong? Did something happen to them? Was this some kind of mistake? But the more I checked, the more obvious it became. This was deliberate. The strangest part, that last conversation, it hadn't just been normal. It had been good, which made the silence feel less like a drift apart and more like a door slammed shut. While I was still standing in the doorway, I kept going back to that last conversation like it was a crime scene. Every word, every emoji, every tiny pause, I picked them apart in my head, looking for the moment where I might have stepped wrong. We'd joked about dinner plans. They'd sent me a reel they thought I'd like. I'd teased them about their terrible music taste. They'd replied with laughing emojis. Nothing sharp, nothing cold. If anything, it had been easy, comfortable. So why did it feel like I'd been cut off mid-sentence? I tried again this time on a platform I didn't usually use with them. Search bar. Their name, nothing on Facebook. Their profile was still there, but I couldn't click it like a ghost you can see but not touch. Snapchat. Wouldn't even let me search for them. On WhatsApp, the profile picture was gone, and my last message sat there with that lonely, single gray tick. The block wasn't an accident. This was surgical, deliberate. Panic started buzzing at the edges of my thoughts. I sent a quick message to one of our mutual friends, keeping it casual. "Hey, have you heard from them today?" No reply. Hours passed, I tried another, same silence. The ones who did respond were weirdly short with me, like they didn't want to get involved. And that's when it hit me, whatever had happened. They weren't just avoiding me. They'd pulled other people into it. Or those people knew something they weren't telling me. The normalcy of last night now felt sinister, like the smile someone gives you right before they slam the door in your face. It's one thing to have someone drift out of your life. Messages getting slower, plans falling through, a sense that things aren't the same. You can see it coming, brace yourself. But this was like walking into a room and finding every door and window welded shut without so much as a note on the table. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. People don't just vanish from your life overnight, not after the kind of closeness we had. Maybe their phone broke. Maybe they lost their accounts. Maybe they were going through something and didn't want to talk. But as the day bled into night with no word, those excuses started to feel like thin ice cracking under my own weight. And then the self-doubt kicked in. Hard. What if I'd said something off and didn't realize it? Maybe one of my jokes landed wrong. Maybe I'd been too clingy or too distant. Or maybe there was some moment, some conversation weeks ago that I brushed off, but they'd been stewing on ever since. That's when my mind started pulling out little fragments from our time together. Moments I hadn't thought twice about before. The time they changed the subject when I mentioned meeting my family. The look in their eyes when I teased them about disappearing for a weekend without texting. The one conversation where they seemed quieter than usual but brushed it off as being tired. Back then, I told myself it was nothing. Now those moments felt like breadcrumbs leading straight to this, whatever this was. The silence wasn't just empty anymore. It was heavy. It was accusing. And it made me feel like I'd been living in a story I didn't actually know the plot of. By the third day, I wasn't just hurt. I was restless. I couldn't sit in the dark, not knowing I started with mutual friends. I didn't go in swinging, just eased into it. "Hey, have you seen them around lately?" A few gave the standard, "No idea." "Sorry." Others didn't even bother to open the message. One finally replied, but it was clipped awkward like they were choosing every word with tweezers. Then I did what I'd been avoiding. I started combing through social media like a detective who knew they were already too far gone. I went to their friends' pages, scrolling past birthdays and vacation photos, hunting for anything recent. That's when I saw it, a group shot at some bar. They were there, same smile, same posture I knew so well. And next to them, someone new. Not touching, not overly intimate, but close enough that my gut tightened. The caption didn't help new beginnings. No tags. No explanation. Just a few heart emojis in the comments from people who apparently were still in the loop. I kept digging and started seeing a pattern. Vague, half-cryptic posts that suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. A meme about cutting off toxic people from someone they hung out with. A story clip of the same new person's hand resting on the edge of their drink. And that's when the bigger realization hit. Maybe this wasn't a sudden disappearance. Maybe they'd been phasing me out for weeks, smiling to my face while laying the bricks for a different life. The warmth of our last conversation started to feel like theater, something they performed to keep me from noticing the trapdoor until they'd already pulled it. It was almost a week before anyone finally cracked one of our mutual friends. Someone I hadn't even messaged, yet sent me a short, hesitant text. "I think you deserve to know." My stomach flipped. They didn't draw it out. They'd been seeing someone else. The friend said. For a while now, not just casual flirting, not maybe an actual relationship that overlapped with mine. Apparently it started quietly, then picked up steam, and when it got serious enough, they decided to make a clean break. Only they didn't have the guts to tell me, I asked. So all those conversations we had, all the plans, the answer was worse than I expected. They didn't want to fight. They thought if they just disappeared, it would be easier. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to wrap my head around it. Every warm word from that last conversation, every laugh, every talk to you tomorrow. All of it had been scripted for an ending they had already decided on. The image I had of them, the one built over months or years, started to crumble. If they could lie that easily, how much of what I remembered was even real? Those busy weekends, the sudden mood shifts, the vague explanations. Maybe they had been rehearsing their escape for a long time right in front of me. It wasn't just that they were gone. It was that they had been leaving the whole time, and I had been too close or too trusting to see it. At some point, I had to stop running circles in my head. There were questions I would never get answered. Not because they were too complicated, but because the kind of person who walks away without a word was never going to give me the truth in the first place. I realized the silence wasn't a mystery to solve. It was a statement. And it said far more about them than it ever could about me. People who care. Explain people who respect you. At least try to end things with honesty. People who don't they take the easy way out, disappearing into the dark and hoping you will just stop knocking. It still hurt. It still stung that someone I trusted could look me in the eye one night and erase me the next morning. But slowly the shame I had been carrying started to shift from what's wrong with me to what kind of person thinks this is okay. Blocking someone without explanation isn't a clean break. It's cowardice dressed up as decisiveness. And now I knew whatever good moments we had shared, they came from someone who could vanish when it mattered most. That knowledge was both heavy and freeing. Sad because it meant the person I thought I knew didn't really exist. Empowering because it meant I didn't have to keep wondering if I had lost something worth keeping. They had made it clear who they were, and now finally I was done looking for them in places they had already chosen to leave.